What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain. Welcome to episode number 301 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please like, subscribe, follow, and share the link with your friends. If you'd like to get our curriculum, you can get the paperback or ebook of From Ashes to Destiny on Amazon. Today's episode number 301 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast is entitled Dead Horses. And the dead horse concept really started out as an American idiom about don't beat a dead horse or don't flog a dead horse, because it meant you can whip or flog a dead horse, but that will not compel it to do useful work. And so it's really talking about continuing to use ineffective strategies even when they aren't working. In business, people try something that worked years ago, and even though it's no longer working, they keep using those same ineffective strategies, hoping that somehow they'll just work again. And this theory states that when you realize you're riding a dead horse, it's best to dismount. It's best to get off that horse and start walking, I guess, because you don't want to get stuck pursuing a futile or pointless effort. And you can't try to revive something that is already dead. So in recovery, it's like we get that idea that if we ride hard enough, if you chase recovery hard enough, it'll be the answer that you're looking for. But you don't even realize that this dead horse, this strategy, this approach you're taking isn't working. Your dead horse isn't really moving. It's sort of like whipping and kicking a dead horse to get it to run faster. In reality, you're wasting your time and energy on something that is no longer productive or relevant. So why do people beat a dead horse? Why do we get stuck in that? Well, I've got three ideas, and I'm sure there's more. One in business is called the sunk cost fallacy. And that's where people keep investing in a strategy because of the resources they've already put in. And we can find that in recovery, where we've started something and we feel we've invested in this direction or in this approach, and then we realize, this isn't working for me, but we feel like, well, I've already invested so much, I've got to stick with it. But we've got to find the strength to cut our losses early. Another reason why people beat a dead horse is fear of failure. We can get stuck and be afraid to admit that this strategy that we had isn't working. That often happens when we say, I can do recovery all on my own, and we start out and we get clean and sober for a couple of weeks and we realize it's not working. We may have even started to dip and dab a little bit and we're hiding it, but we don't want to admit that we're slipping back. We don't want to admit that it's not working. We don't want to ask for help because we're just afraid of the consequences. And another idea why people keep beating a dead horse is not just the sunk cost, the first one that I said, but an emotional attachment. Like we have our emotions sunk into this program. And if we feel we've invested emotionally, then we do feel like a failure if we feel it's time to get out. So I compare this to guys who start out early in recovery and they do their 90 meetings in 90 days and they find that it's not working. And so they go, well, maybe I'll do double meetings or 3 meetings a day for the next 30 days. And if I show up for twice as many or 3 times as many meetings, then it'll work twice as fast or 3 times as fast, and maybe I'll even finish sooner. But we're just beating a dead horse. And in reality, if we think about horses, there's a lot of steps to care for a horse, from feeding and grooming it, getting veterinary checkups, making sure it's in a safe environment, getting it regular exercise. And so maybe our focus is in the wrong area. Maybe we're just focusing on riding the horse, but not caring for the horse. And by that, I mean, caring for your recovery as a horse would be really getting involved in your curriculum, digging in as if it's something that you need to take care of. You need to grow. You need to feed. You need to make sure it's healthy. And you know what? Then it will work for you. The dead horse in recovery has no life, no spirit, no strength, no vitality, and no function. An American race car driver, Kevin Harvick, is quoted as saying, "You can beat a dead horse as much as you want, but it doesn't come back to life. And sometimes you just have to change things up to keep the excitement and enthusiasm in the sport." So I want to ask you, has your recovery gone stale? Do you look around and see that it's effective for others, but it feels dead to you, feels like a dead horse to you? Has your excitement about recovery faded away and you're not sure about why you're even trying anymore? Have you lost the enthusiasm that you had when you started in recovery? Well, if this is you, what do you need to do to change up your routine to try to get that enthusiasm and excitement back in to your recovery? Here's some suggestions. First, you could write down your reasons for recovery. And I mean it. Write them down. Why are you at the rehab? Why are you doing the work? Why are you in the program that you chose? Why are you meeting with the counselor you're meeting with? Write down your reasons, and then you can write down action steps that will make sure you're working on each of those reasons. Another idea is to write down what your desires are. What are your true motivations inside? And take the time to think about it. Don't just write them off the top of your head. Contemplate and see what are the intrinsic things, the things deep down inside as your desires and motivation for recovery. And then you can look at what your daily routine has become and see where you can add variety, spice it up a little bit, take on new activity or responsibility, volunteer if you're in a recovery house to do new things. Don't wait to be asked to do things. Remember that even small daily activities, when done well and with enthusiasm, bring a sense of accomplishment and achievement. And when you do those little daily activities, celebrate them. And by little daily activities, it can be little things like washing dishes or cleaning up your room, making your bed without someone having to tell you to do them. You can also add variety by sponsoring or mentoring new guys in recovery. And if that would intimidate you or make you feel almost like a hypocrite, then how about taking the step of just getting a homework buddy, someone that you meet with every day, or at least every second day, to go over your assignments, to talk about them, to see what their thoughts are, to share your thoughts and your ideas. And while you're doing that, get deeply connected with at least one guy who has found success and stability. And then overall, look at small changes that you can start making today, which will add positivity to your daily routine. So look at those areas that maybe you're negative about and you know you need to change, and come up with a small change you can do every day to add positivity. And I'd like to close with a quote by Jack Canfield, an American author and motivational speaker, who said, Remember, you and you alone are responsible for maintaining your energy. Give up blaming, complaining, and excuse making, and keep taking action in the direction of your goals, however mundane or lofty they may be. Are you ready to get off that dead horse and stop blaming, complaining, and excuse making and take action in your recovery? Thanks for listening to this episode of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you are saying that's me as you listen, then it's time now to start taking some of those action steps. You can message me on the link in this podcast or by email at david@gmail.com, or go to my website, www.froma2d.org, and click on the contact page. Keep listening to future podcast episodes. As always, stay safe and stay resilient.